Here I've opened the main window of the Friend Organizer application. As you know, we have defined implicit data templates for the data types Friend Detail View Model and Meeting Detail View Model. We use these data templates to map a view model to a view. So in case of the Friend Detail View Model, the Friend Detail View is used, and in case of the Meeting Detail View Model, the Meeting Detail View is used. When I scroll down, you can see that this main window contains a content control that is bound to the Detail View Model property of the main view model. When this Detail View Model property contains a Friend Detail View Model, this content control will display the Friend Detail View because of the implicit data template. If it contains a Meeting Detail View Model, it will display the Meeting Detail View because of the implicit data template. But in the previous clip, we have removed this Detail View Model property from the main view model. Now we have a Detail View Models property that contains many Detail View Models. But the content control can only display a single Detail View Model. So let's change this content control to a tab control. And on the tab control, we bind the item source property to the Detail View Models property of the main view model that is in the data context. Beside the item source property, I also bind the selected item property of this tab control to the selected Detail View Model property of the main view model. And I use a two-way data binding here so that the tab control also sets the selected Detail View Model property of the main view model when the user selects a tab. On the other side, when we change the selected Detail View Model property from the main view model, the tab control will automatically select the tab accordingly. To define a title for a tab item, we can use the tab control's item template property. I assign a new data template. Inside of this data template, I use a horizontal stack panel and I place a text block in the stack panel and I set the text to title. We will display a real title in the next clip. After the title, I want to display a text block with the text star. I want to display this text block if our Detail View Model has changes. So I bind the visibility property to the has changes property of the Detail View Model. But as the has changes property is of type bool and the visibility property is of type of the visibility enumeration, we need to use an I-value converter. WPF contains already a boolean to visibility converter, so we can use that one. To use it in the binding, we need to define it as a resource. And as we might need it at other places in our application, I define it in the application resources. So we can use it application-wide. Here I just create a new boolean to visibility converter and I define a key so that we can access it over this key. I set the key to boolean to visibility converter. Now I go back to the main window and after this has changes property, I add a comma and I set the converter property of the data binding. I use the static resource markup extension to reference our boolean to visibility converter. Now we are done with the first version of this tab control. We have bound the item source property to the Detail View Models property of the main view model, and we have also bound the selected item property of the tab control to the selected Detail View Model property of the main view model. Beside this, we have also defined a data template for the item template property that defines a title for a tab. Let's see this in action and let's run the application. I select a friend, and you can see a tab comes up with Thomas Huber. As soon as I change the first name here, you can see the little star in the title. Now I click on other friends, and these friends are opening up in different tabs. I can also open up meetings, and the meetings also appear in these tabs. So now I can navigate through the different tabs either by using the tab control or by using my navigation on the left side. Now let's continue and let's display a correct title in these tab items. To display a title in the header of the tab items, I have adjusted the Detail View Model base class. So here you see a new private field of type string that is named _title. This is the backing field for the new title property that I have added here. In the subclasses Friend Detail View Model and Meeting Detail View Model, I'm setting this title property. So let's take a look what I did in these subclasses. Let's start with the Friend Detail View Model. The Friend Detail View Model contains the initializeFriend method where we initialize a friend. Here we create the friend wrapper and we initialize an event handler for the property changed event. As you can see here, I check if the property first name or last name has changed, and then I call a new method setTitle. Also at the end of this initializeFriend method, I call the setTitle method. Inside of the setTitle method, I just set the title property from the DetailViewModel base class to a string that contains the first name and the last name of the friend. I did exactly the same in the meeting DetailViewModel. So when I go to the initializeMeeting method here, you can see that I check if the title property of the meeting has changed, then I call that setTitle method. Also at the end of this initializeMeeting method, I call setTitle, and inside of the setTitle method, I just set the title property of the DetailViewModel base class. I assign the value of the title property of the meeting. So everything is already in place, and we can go back to the main window where we have our tab control. As you remember, we have defined a data template that we have assigned to the item template property of the tab control for the title of a tab item. We have already created here a text block with a text title. Instead of this text, we can just bind to the new title property of the DetailViewModel base class. As the friend DetailViewModel and also the meeting DetailViewModel inherit from that class, they have this title property. Now let's run the application and let's see this in action. I click on a friend, and you can see that the first name and the last name of that friend are displayed in the header of the tab item. When I start changing the first name of a friend, the title is updated accordingly. When I click on a meeting, we also see the meeting title in the tab header. When I change the title of the meeting, the tab header is also changed accordingly. So now we are done with opening up tab items and with displaying correct titles. But as a user, I also want to be able to close tab items. But there is no button in the header to close a tab item. The only way how to close a tab item is by deleting the entity. Oh, this friend cannot be deleted as it is part of at least one meeting. So let's check the meetings, and Sarah is not part of a meeting, so I delete her. And when I delete her, the tab item disappears as we remove the DetailViewModel from the DetailViewModel's property in the main view model. But now let's see how we can add a close button to the tab header. Before we implement the logic to close a tab in the Friend Organizer application, I want to show you what the plan is. In the Friend Organizer application, we have created a DetailViewModel base class for the DetailViewModels Friend DetailViewModel and Meeting DetailViewModel. In this DetailViewModel base class, I want to introduce the closeDetailViewCommand property that is of type iCommand. In the item template of the tab control, we will create a button that binds to that command. When the closeDetailViewCommand is executed, it will publish the AfterDetailClosed event by using Prism's event aggregator. The AfterDetailClosed event will contain the ID of the DetailViewModel, or respectively of the model that lives in this DetailViewModel, and it will also contain the viewModel name of the DetailViewModel. In our case, this name is either Friend DetailViewModel or Meeting DetailViewModel. The main viewModel of the Friend Organizer application uses Prism's event aggregator to subscribe to the AfterDetailClosed event. When it receives this event, it looks into its own DetailViewModels property to remove that DetailViewModel that has the specified ID and viewModel name. As this DetailViewModels property is the item source for the tab control, the tab will automatically disappear when we remove a DetailViewModel from this DetailViewModels property. So this is the plan how to close a tab. Now we need to implement the logic. In this demonstration, we will introduce the closeDetailViewCommand property in the DetailViewModel base class. When this command is executed, we will publish the AfterDetailClosed event. You will subscribe to this event in the main viewModel to close the tabs in the Friend Organizer application. After we have done this, we will also check for changes when closing a tab, so that we can allow the user to cancel the closing action. Now let's start with the closeDetailViewCommand property. Here I've opened the DetailViewModel base class of the Friend Organizer application. As you can see, in the constructor I initialize already the new property closeDetailViewCommand with the new delegate command. When I scroll down a bit, you can see the new property closeDetailViewCommand here. At the bottom of this class, I have the onCloseDetailViewExecute method that is used to close the tab. Instead of making this method private, I make it protected virtual. This would allow us to override it in a subclass. But in our case, we don't override it, but we want to provide the possibility. Now as you can see in the to-do comment, we need to close this instance when this execute handler is executed. Before we do this, I also want to show you what I did in the main window. Here you can see the tab control. As you know, we have defined a data template for the item template property. This data template defines what's inside of the header of a tab item. I have added a button here, and the command property of this button is bound to the close detail view command property of the detail view model base class. I've set the content property to an X and vertical content alignment to top so that this X is at the top, and I've defined a margin of 2 and a font size of 20. Now when I run the application, you can see what this looks like. So when I open up a friend, you can see this little button here with the X inside. Now when the user clicks on this button, the execute logic of the close detail view command is executed. So now let's implement this logic as we want to raise the after detail closed event. When the onCloseDetailView execute method of the detail view model base class is executed, we need to close this instance by publishing the after detail closed event. I have already created this event class in the event folder of the Friend Organizer UI project. The after detail closed event uses the after detail closed event args, and as you can see, the event args have an ID and a view model name. So with the event specified, we can go back to the detail view model base class. I remove this to-do comment and I paste a small snippet. I use Prism's event aggregator to get the after detail closed event. Then I call the publish method of that event and I pass in new after detail closed event args. I set the ID property to the ID of the detail view model base instance, and I set the view model name property to the name of the specific detail view model base instance. In our case, this name will be either Friend Detail View Model or Meeting Detail View Model, as we have no other detail view models yet. So we are already done with publishing the after detail closed event, and now we can subscribe to it in the main view model to remove the detail view model from the detail view models property. Here I've opened the main view model of the Friend Organizer application. In the constructor, I have already used the event aggregator to grab the after detail closed event. I subscribe to that event and I have defined the after detail closed method as an event handler. So let's right click here and let's say go to definition. As you can see, I have not implemented this method yet. When I scroll up a bit, you can see the after detail deleted method. In this method, we grab already a detail view model from the detail view models property by using the ID and the view model name. If we have found a detail view model, then we remove that detail view model from the detail view models property. So in fact, in this after detail deleted method, we close a tab already, and we need exactly the same logic in the after detail closed method. So let's just refactor the code from the after detail deleted method. I select it and I press Ctrl- to extract the method. I call the method removeDetailViewModel. Instead of passing in the after detail deleted event args, I pass in the ID and the view model name. I press Ctrl- again to generate this method with this signature. And I just remove the other signature that I have created before. Inside of the method, I use the ID parameter and also the view model name parameter. Now I just cut this method from here and I paste it at the bottom. I scroll up a bit and I can copy this method call and I can paste it also into the after detail closed method, as the after detail closed event args have exactly the same properties as the after detail deleted event args. Now let's run the application and let's see if this works. I open up some friends and now I can use the button in the tab header to close friends. Okay, this works really good. But there is one issue. After I have changed a friend, I can still close the tab and I don't get a warning that I will lose my changes. So now let's display also a message box to the user when he closes a tab and when he has made changes to the entity in that tab.